that one.
And we're live. Welcome back to the Redu Wellness Center talks. And we're going to do a podcast as well. So we're having Facebook Live, and I'm sorry if I feel a little crooked there. We tried to arrange it, but I guess the ground. So today, on Tuesday, I was going to say March 9, but it's September 3rd. I've entered the time vortex. I've traveled through time, and here I am. Okay. So today we're talking about children. And the talk is called The New Children because in comparison to the last 100,000 years of children, they're considered new children. However, they've been among us for at least 100 years. So they're not as new as we think they are. However, they're now more present in droves. Before, they would be sparkled a little bit everywhere. These children, I've specifically selected their parents to help them develop their natural abilities. But that being said, the talk today is based on my book, some of Doreen Virtue's books, some of Lee Carroll's books, and from Nikki Pachulo's book. So what's interesting is that that's what's said in the literature. However, we all select our parents. So there's nothing very particular about that. So today we're going to talk about what they are and debunk a few theories and make things hopefully clearer for everyone. But those children are different. They're born different. They're born on a more spiritual path, and they also have a different DNA than we do. Cryon speaks in one of his books of the 12 layers of DNA, and scientific don't know that we have that many layers. They've only found so much. The other stuff seems to be dormant somewhere, or is called junk DNA, and they're not quite sure what to do with it. But as this DNA is activated in those special children, all of a sudden a lot more data is available, and along that, a lot more of it is being used. It's no longer junk. So in general, they're divided in three categories: the indigo children, the crystal children, and the rainbow children. They were presented in that order into the world, but all of them are considered star children. And they are there to fulfill very specific role in our society. So in order for them to do that, they were born with some innate ability that other people did not possess, which explains why the world has been changing so fast in the last 100 years. It is because of them. If you consider that, we've been plowing fields pretty much the same way for 3,000 years, there's been very little progress in the way that we lived our lives or the way that we build houses up until about 100 years ago. They're the ones that are bringing forth these ideas, these innovations, these different way of thinking. So we can thank them for that. Now, these children are entering their incarnation. They're connected to each other as well, which is why they kind of start finding each other, or they start forming groups. It's very interesting in the way that we look at the world, because we're looking at, let's say, kids or young adults now playing video games, and you're like, hey, I don't understand. Why don't you go out and meet people? But if you take time to actually ask them the question, they're like, yeah, but I like those people. And that guy's in New York, and that guy's in San Francisco, and that guy's in Russia, and that guy's in Australia. So I can't just go outside and meet those people. There's, all over the world. But we get along, and we talk, and we're friends. And what united them in the first thing is that play that they do online. So if we stop regarding it in our old traditional way of what they're actually doing, and if we start actually analyzing what they're really truly doing, is they're looking for people who resonate with them and people who understand them without them having to explain themselves, and finding themselves all over the world. which is kind of pretty neat when you look at it that way. So now they also have a much higher communication awareness. So for some of the things that and I struggle with this quite a bit, I feel I always need to explain things to people. And I'm thinking, but when I look at you, I know all those things. So why do I have to say it out loud? Why do I have to explain, okay, so today I still like you, you're still my friend, but I'm feeling pissy and shitty and I don't want you to touch me. And I would think that that was so obvious, right? Because you just have to look at me and say, ooh, don't touch you today, right? But these children have this ability to read each other, not just mind, but energy and body language, and not just the physical body, but the emotional body and the mental body as well. So there's this unsaid communication, unspoken communication, that makes them able to be connected in a whole new different way that we are not aware about. So now, through that, the purpose of those children is the indigo was the star blazing. He was the one, clearing the path. The crystal children then come and have the other tool that's required, which is more love, that to be able to work with what the flat ground, the indigo prepared for them. And then the rainbow children are coming to help us complete the project. Right? So it was a 3-step plan, if you will, and we needed 3 different types of people. If you look at it for any construction, I mean, you always have the crew that comes in and demolishes and clears. Then you have the engineer architects that are planning everything and are saying, okay, so this is how we're going to build it, this is how it's going to look. And then the people who actually come and actually do the building, right? It's different crew, different people, different knowledge. It's the same thing for what's happening with the children. We're all on our way to ascend with the planet to a different dimension. So if you did not know that, surprise. We've been working on this in the groups that I take to Shasta every year. If you're interested in learning more about ascension, I encourage you to read the books Telos, written by Aurelia Louise Jones. They explain that very clearly. They're beings living inside the mountain in a different dimension than ours, and are trying to guide us towards that dimension and what needs to be done. And one of those things is that we have to be open-hearted, we have to be loving, we have to be compassionate, we have to respect Mother Earth, we have to restore her. There's a lot of things that we need to do. And those children are there to help us, show us a different way. Because if we keep doing things the way we've been doing, it's not going to happen. And so each of these children are born at a higher consciousness level than the mainstream of the people. If you're interested in learning about consciousness level, we'll do that next year in Shasta. But consciousness evolves, and as you evolve. However, it is said up to now that those consciousness level are linked between your physical evolution, your emotional evolution, and your mental evolution. Therefore, you cannot reason with a 3-year-old child. It's not within their abilities to do so. They need to be a certain age to have developed this ability to reason. Just like if I take an object and I hide the object behind the paper, a young child would think, oh, there was magic, the object has disappeared. However, as the child gets older, it'll put the paper away and take the object back because it knows it didn't magically disappear, it's just behind the paper. But try to explain that to a young baby. The young baby cannot. And so there are a level of intelligence or level of mental evolution that are included in certain level of consciousness. There's also the ability you are born and you're completely dependent up to the age of about 18 months, when you can start controlling certain bodily function, and you can start holding a fork, and you can start feeding yourself, you can start maybe walking. There are things that you can start doing, but physically you're still an 18-month-old, so you're still pretty wobbly, and you're not going to win any athletic race, or not going to do miracles in the physical world. And so all of these different levels of evolution exist. And one of these levels of evolution is a spiritual evolution. Now, it is thought that you're born at the same level 1. And that as you experience spirituality, as you engage in religion worship, and as you practice your faith and all of those things, your awareness and consciousness evolves as well. On Earth at this point, we believe in 12 levels of consciousness. However, these children are born at a higher, or obtain a higher level of consciousness than is possible for other humans at this point. And it's not surprising, because everybody's been set in boxes. You have the Christian box, you have the Muslims box, you have the Buddhist box, you have these boxes, and those boxes were independent of each other, not touching each other. They had nothing in common with each other. And then these children come forth and they're like, oh, but what's in this box? And if you've been part of different religions or churches or faith, they usually discourage you from interacting with people of other faith. They want to keep you in this box. It's actually a rule. You're not to interact with strangers or people that are not of your own faith. And they can be called many, many things. They can be called gentles, they can be called infidels, they can be called, atheists. It doesn't matter. They don't belong in a box, so don't talk to those people. And with the arrival of these children, we started something completely different. We started thinking, oh, but in this box, they're talking about this, and in that box, they're talking about this, and look at that. We're all talking about the same thing. We're just using different names. And that's the beauty of their consciousness, is it's more open. It has the possibility of exploring and discovering more, because they're more open to new ideas, more open to new philosophies, and more open to discussing what is about in the world. And so depending on the literature that you are looking at, some of them are called star children, because it's believed that they have no karmic debts to pay, and they've been assigned from a different planet, and therefore are adjusted to the new frequency. Not true. For the very fact that indigo children recall their past life, and crystal children will recall their past lives. So they have past lives. Now, is that to say that they no longer have karma? That's to be determined. But I think that they're here to clear the karma, and that's one of the ways that they clear the way for other people to evolve. They're showing us how do we clear the karma instead of creating more. Yes? Now, are they from the stars? Some of us are. Are they all? No, I don't think so. So the indigo, crystal, and rainbow children's are often here to question the reality of our families, of communities, and the way we live our life, or the way we educate our children. So they're going to be saying, well, I don't like learning this way. This model doesn't fit. But they had to grow up, become adults, and we're talking for the first comers, the indigo, to then start developing schools like Montessori and other types of school of learning. They're not mainstream, they're not popular, but they do exist. A lot of children are being homeschooled because the parents don't feel that they got what they needed from the school system. So it took people to be unhappy, to feel unsatisfied, to feel that their demands weren't met, to create this new system so that these new children, the crystal children, then arrive, and then they can say, oh, this is much better. So they don't have to fight a system. They don't have to, you see what I mean? By the indigo blazing the way, is that it decided, no, this school system will fit a certain amount of model of people, but we don't fit in that. And you won't adjust to us. You won't adapt to us. It's not an adaptive system, right? From grade 1 to grade 6, you sit in a small classroom, and small tiny desk, with the chairs can't even move from the desk if you're, I was that unlucky. You're stuck at this desk, and you're even get assigned a place. You can't even be creative enough to find your own place in the space and play with the energies of the space. And then you can't choose to study math in the morning because that's better for you, and language in the afternoon. And they think, okay, well, we'll vary the schedule to make everybody happy. Well, it still doesn't make me happy because that's not what I want to do today, right? There's no freedom. There's no liberty. There's none of this had any freedom to it, no movement to it. And now, what do we see the main change from, like, let's say the 60s to now? Now that the Indigos are getting to be the bosses, because the Indigos are starting to be in their 50s now. Now, we have multiple schedules. It's no longer everybody has to be here at 9, everybody leaves at 5. We're not all robots. You have a variable schedule, and okay, so I'm going to trust you to do your 40 hours a week. And we're malleable, right? And those differences come from Indigo again, saying, well, we have to adapt to life situations, right? This person needs to leave early. This comes in late, but that's okay because they're still going to be here, someone working. But instead of ordering everybody around, they're letting everybody voice their opinion and saying, well, I can do this, I can do that, and this is what I'm free to do. And then everybody is cooperatively working together, as opposed to have someone barking orders at everybody and everybody being miserable. Yes, yes. Now, for these beings that are of a higher consciousness, their role is actually to come in as teachers and healers. That is their role. So we have to stop thinking because they're younger, they know less. Because consciously, they're more aware than we are. And beautifully enough is because of YouTube, because of videos and some good shows on TV, we're starting to see more and more that these children are different. And we're agreeing that different does not mean institutionalized, and different does not mean that they have to be hidden or they have to be kept a secret. We're starting to say, let's be curious. So what do you have to say about this? And then hear the wisdom that comes out of it. And honoring that wisdom and sharing that wisdom. And sometimes not quite understanding what we just heard and how to come from that kid's mouth because we never discussed these things in the house. But it's a remembering of their past lives. So the function of the Indigos was very clear. It was to destroy the whole system, in a sense, not to go to war, and this is why I want to use the word warrior sparingly, because we certainly don't want to take up arms. We don't want to fight. We don't want to cause any more wars. We're just saying, we're dismantling what's there, saying this is not needed, that there's a better way than this to go about it. So in that sense, traditional people who are very happy in their mold, in their box, being undisturbed for a very long time, all of a sudden they feel really shaken up by these people coming in wanting to change it. And that is how they describe my generation. And you guys can't be happy with everything that we've been doing for 75 years. You got to come in and do your own thing all the time. Yeah, it's time for change. It's time to do it a better way, easier way, less structured way, less bossy way, more cooperative way. Yeah. So the Indigo children, they do this by incarnating into families where they should be able to develop those gifts. And by this I mean, based on my personal experience, it doesn't have to be mother and father. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, well, it means that although they're born from that mother or father, they might be born there because there's an entire community that would support them along with it. So it's not always, because some people are going to say, not spiritual whatsoever. It's impossible for me to have an indigo or crystal child. Yes, but maybe you're not. But your aunt, your mother, your grandmother, your sister, your best friend, they're all like that. You're the only unbeliever in the group. And this child's going to be surrounded and supported by all these other people. They're also there sometimes to teach their parents. They show us in gentle and wise and a high level of wisdom how to live, talk, cooperate, and love. And they cannot flourish in a system where that doesn't happen. So if you go back, we're going to start talking about the Indigo children. The Indigo children, I've been coming for 100 years, so we're talking about 1920 and up. However, in the 1970s, there was a big influx of them. A large number of them arrived. And for those of you, sweethearts, that are born in the 70s, and you don't quite fit the Indigo category, you might want to think about crystal, and not rainbow, but definitely crystal. That you might have been a precursor amongst this drove of Indigo in the 70s to be one of the first crystal children. Okay? So you're having multiple doors opening at once. The Indigos are there for 100 years. They've been starting to change things. You have started getting inventors, and you start getting things that are happening differently. And then there's an influx in the 70s. So that brings that group of kids in the 90s, mid 80s and 90s. When have we started to see a real huge problem, with teenage people? I mean, teenagers, as a rule, do rebel, right? But they didn't rebel in the 70s, they rebelled by growing hair and dancing to peace-loving music, right? I mean, yeah, sure, there was a few drugs around, but it's the real issue. When it became a real problem, when we seemed to see society completely start falling apart, was in the mid-80s. Because the hippies created a new movement. The rockers created a new movement. It was just a shift in music, a shift in the way you dress. But you were still going to work. You were still going to get married. You were still going to have children, right? The hippies still married. The hairdos changed, but the mentalities was just very similar. Until then, in the mid-80s, came no, I don't want to get married. And then came the heavy drugs, and then came people quitting school, and then people not following, and then people started to really get worried. Where is this world going? And that comes from a bunch of Indigo feeling completely lost and unable to follow the pattern that was there before, but not having a pattern to follow, and having to create this pattern for them. Some of them, it was a real struggle. So we're going to talk about 4 types of Indigo, and some are more prone to drug addiction than others. But the second influx of Indigo children came in the early 1990s. So they would be around their 30s right now. So this is the kind of people we're looking at. People who have gone to school, graduated, worked for a year or two, and they go, screw this, I don't want to do this. That's not what I want. I want to travel. I'm okay working in a food truck to have enough money to get me to the next town, and then the next town I'll get another job, and I don't need a big house, and I don't need fancy clothes, and my backpack is okay. And they have very different rules. And then the parents go, my child's not successful. My child's not going to make it. And yeah, if you can stop worrying and having certain fears and ask them, how do you feel? And it's very interesting because I meet a lot of them. And there's a recent one in particular. I mean, she was a biologist, researcher, like all these degrees, and she's like, hated it. I said, so now you're in Canada. And they're not from here. And it's like, yeah, I was here for a year. And it's not quite what I expected. And so I'm going to go now. And they work while they're here. They understand. You know, they need to work, they need to make money, because that's still how you get the food but they house sit for dogs so they don't have to pay for rent, and they find creative ways to still manage with very little income and still do what they want to do, because they're not trapped into the loan payments and the debt load, and they're living in the moment. They're the ones who are going to stand up and start fighting for their rights or things to change. I was reading a post today on apparently some people are complaining that there's no straight parade, there's only gay parades or something that kind. And I couldn't help but laugh. But the post was very intelligently scripted, and it says, we don't have a gay parade to celebrate we're gay. We're having a gay parade to celebrate the fact that we can be gay without being persecuted and mistreated or have to hide. So just be happy you don't need a parade, right? But these things have come about because of Indigo children. Revolutionizing the way we think about sexuality, the way we think about education, the way we even think about success. They bring about the change so that we stop in this pursuit of course, it was quite the fight to all of a sudden tell people, stop trying to make one person rich by buying everything they tell you to buy, right? Now, examine what you actually need and see if you can find it cheaper somewhere else, because it's not a big name brand. So people didn't like us very much, right? We're not viewed as, we're the opposite of capitalism, so we're the death of capitalism. So people don't want to encourage us. People won't spread our ideas because they make no money off of it. There's no money in it, literally. And that's why it's so hard to get the movement going and started, and for people to know about these things, because there's literally no money in it. But once that's done, the Indigo children's main role, after they broke down the traditional way of doing a thing, the traditional thinking, they're here to show us everything that doesn't work. They don't necessarily have the solution, which is why it's so hard for them. Because all they can say is, I don't fit. Where do I fit? And it is their life journey to find out where they fit, to realize eventually they don't fit anywhere, and therefore something else has to be created, something new has to be invented. And so they're usually very creative, they're usually very inventive. And they are highly sensitive. Like I said, part of the research included some of Doreen Virtue's books, and she says that they have an inner lie detector built inside of them. So you can't bullshit them. You can't promise something because they know, no, you're not going to deliver. So I'm not going to buy into that. They're also the one that do not buy into the guilt. You know, I don't know, you parents out there who are trying to guilt your children into doing something. That would work with an Indigo. They'll call you on it, and they'll tell you, that's not my problem. I don't know why you try and make me feel guilty about this, but it's that's not going to work. I didn't do this. I didn't cause this. I don't have to fix this. So that's the way Indigo think. They're also, in that sense, very non-conformist. They don't conform to anything because they don't feel they have to. Because if it doesn't fit, why are you trying to make it fit? Instead, find me a place where I can fit. And so they're very challenging. If you're raising Indigo children and you don't have a calm household or a loving household, oh my gosh, good luck. Because they will be challenging. They'll be challenging you at every step of the way, because they're saying you're asking for something that doesn't exist, that doesn't fit. So instead, allow me the space to create it. And that's where the most successful parents of Indigo children have succeeded in raising children. It's in allowing them to be more in charge. So, of course, it's the complete opposite of raising kids in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Not 70s, maybe a bit, but, you know. My parents were born in 1925 and 1928. So they were old enough to be my grandparents when I was born. And, of course, I'm coming along, and my dad says, because, and I'm like, but why? And it really was challenging for him to have to think, like, because I'm your dad, that's why. I said, well, no, that does not explain how I should behave right now. Explain it to me. And I challenged my father, not because I was mean or because I was a horrible person, but because that's the way I was built. I continuously challenge, but why? Why is this wrong? Why can I not do that? And sometimes he came up with a satisfactory response, and I would go, oh, well, that makes sense. And I'd walk away and say, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going to my room. I can't go out. and I could easily comply with something that was logical and explained to me. But if your explanation still did not make sense to me, then I would still challenge you on it. Because it doesn't make any sense. It's been done this way. Right. But it doesn't work anymore. So do it a different way. At least try it my way. Which ended up changing many, many, many things in our household. Yeah? So, Indigo children are born into the soul ray of incarnation and evolution. It is possible for them to go from an indigo color, and if they accomplish their work, to a different color, a higher color. That is the first soul that is born this way. No other soul, if they were born red, orange, blue, violet, whatever, they stay that color. But the indigo are able to shift. It is, in fact, their role to not just destroy, but more find everything that's wrong, and when they start fixing what's wrong, their soul color changes. And so they have clairvoyance and healing abilities. So what have we experienced a lot since the 70s? A lot of the people are going into the natural healing arts through essential oils. Now it's not popular. We're doing the REIKI, Qigong, quantum touch, healing touch, energy work. It's now popular. And then you have all of the natural medicines that are being popular. Yeah, the vitamins and stuff. Now go back 50 years and try to find these things. Good luck. You know, none of those things were popular or widely spread, or that people will actually start paying money for that kind of stuff. Which we now do because we're entering the profession. Because they're stuck one foot in the material world, but they still need the money to pay for the electricity and the apartment and the food. And the other foot is in this world of, this next world that's coming about. They are habitually fearless. They will see fear. They'll know fear is there. And then walk right past it and say, well, that was nice to meet you. And then move right along. Because they understand that fear comes from ignorance. Fear comes from the unknown. And what is their job but to bring us into the unknown? If they're afraid, they'll never be able to be trailblazers or way showers. They'll cower in their corner and say, not me, not me. So therefore, the indigo children are meant to be exploring, going to, top of the trees, top of the cliff, jumping off cliffs. They want to see what's beyond that. What's beyond the fear? What's beyond what we've been doing all the time? Make sense? Yes. We have some people in the room. Obviously, everybody's on that side of the room, so that's why I keep looking that way. The 4 types of indigo, according to Lee Carroll in his book, The Indigo Children Are Here Now, is the humanist. And the humanist is the person that loves to read, extremely social, and works with masses. So will affect and influence masses. The conceptual is the project managers, engineers. They're the, when I told you, someone needs to be there to build that new bridge, or to build that new building, or create the solar panels, or create the wind technology. These are the conceptualist indigos that created that. And they're also the most inclined towards addiction. They're also the most athletic, which is but because they tend to do things in a big way, everything they do tends to go big. So if they consume alcohol or drugs, it'll also be big. Then there's the artist, the sensitive, creative, musical And honestly, if you look at the way music used to be, it hasn't changed much. You know, if you look at the way they had the Charleston, and then they have a different dance, but the music, the rhythm, they still have quick rhythm, but it's always the same instruments. It's always variation on the violin, the banjo, the guitar, and then they came the percussion. But once the Indigo started taking the music, the arts into their own hands, that's when we really developed into all these different types of music, the electro, techno, and everything, other instruments that have been created, invented, all of the postmodern art, the abstracts, and yeah, Dali. You can't tell me that Dali is a traditional painter, right? Dali was probably one of the first Indigo to pioneer our world, to make us see art differently. Sure, Picasso was one of them too, and so was Pollock. I've not met them personally, so I can't verify this information, but based on the type of art and of the avant-garde, the breaking of the mold, the creating of something completely new is very Indigo-like, even in the artist mode. Why is this important? Because with the conceptual and the artist is where we get our imagination to grow, and we let it fly, and that's when other things become possible. Right? It all starts from thoughts, from imagination. So that's why we needed these types of people present, affecting all these different fields. And then there's the last type of Indigo, which is an interdimensional Indigo, and he's pretty much a know-it-all and starts new philosophies or new religions or new ideas, new debates, and allows a new forum to take place to debate new ideas or old ideas and developing new formats. Yes? Wonderful. So now, the Indigo child, because we're talking about children, I realize that a lot of them are now grown up for the most part, but there's still going to be a trickling of Indigo. We're still going to need them in our world today until we're completely ascension. So if you have one of those Indigo child, you can recognize them. Let's go with that first. You recognize them by them acting like royalty, like things belong to them, the world belongs to them, your house is theirs. And they deserve to be here. So therefore they deserve to be having attention, they deserve to be gratified with your smile and your accolades and all your love, and they take a lot of room. They're not the self-effacing child, so not. They'll be the one telling you that they have a story to tell, and they'll go on a chair and start telling the story. They know who they are. You're not going to tell them, be a good little boy, and your mom's a house worker, you're a girl, so this is what you're going to do. They're going to look at you and say, no, I'm an artist, or this is who I am. You can't tell me who I am. You don't know me. Get the time to know me first. They're very sure of themselves, and they have a hard time with discipline and authority. They don't respect the regular punishment. And the best way to discipline an Indigo child is actually to discuss with the Indigo child what they've done. What they've done is not okay. And the Indigo child will tell you, well, those rules are not fair. We need to change those rules. And this is why, and the discipline and authority doesn't work, because they don't recognize your authority. They don't recognize the rule itself, because they view the world differently than you do. And then things, we all heard this phrase, children were meant to be seen, not heard. They're the complete opposite of that. So if they go to grandma and grandpa's house and all of a sudden they cause a ruckus, don't expect them to apologize for it. They think that this place needs a little bit of life into it. And they'll bring this life about, and they'll bring, they'll bring the pans, and they'll start banging pans in the living room, going, well, we need to clear the energy of this room, right? Lots of load of energy here that needs to be cleared. This is the way they're acting. And they're acting, as far as they're concerned, for the betterment of everybody living in that household. So why should you punish them for not being quiet? Yes. They find menial tasks very boring. So if you ask them to do the dusting or simple things, they might just simply refuse to do those because it's way beneath them. And it's the royal behavior we saw before, right? They'll say, no, that's not a task for me. Ask me to repaint your wall instead, and let me have the choice of color and style. Let me be free to create here. Let me have the reign. That's how they are. They also they always have an opinion on how things should be done, and they do believe that things should be done differently all the time. So they tend to get bored easily if you give them the same task. So if you intend for your children to have chores, then I suggest you get very creative and you have a roulette and you spend the roulette on which chore will you do this week for mommy, and then distribute the chores accordingly. It's that kind of thing, and it can't be the same thing every week. It'd be so much easier. You're the oldest, that's what you do. You're the middle, that's what you do. You're the youngest, you take care of that. That won't work for them. I've done that last week. Yes, I want you to do it again. Why? I've already done that. Right? They don't understand the point of why should I keep redoing the same thing over and over. Then this is a problem. We need to do this differently or not care about dust anymore, because dusting every week is just insane. Right? We need to invent a way to prevent dust from coming in the first place. Now give them that task, they'll be busy for the next 2 weeks, and that would sell. I'm just saying. They display great intuition. They often are very creative, extremely intelligent. But because they think outside the box, a lot of people don't see that until quite a few years later. They are best managed, and we're talking children here, they're best managed by talking to them and letting them explain, so what do you think about this, and why did you do that? And, well, whatever it is, engage. Always engage them. They'll love that. They seem to be extremely talented or gifted. So they can be artistic, they can be musical, they can also be great athletes. They're good at everything they touch, but they get bored easily. So it's hard to keep them engaged in something. I'll give you an example. My son was great at soccer. And he's looking at me and says, I'm great at soccer. I said, yes, you are. I'm so proud of you. He's like, yeah, let's do something else. There's no point in continuing being good at soccer. If I'm already good at it, then let's do something I'm not good at it so I can get good at that. And so they seem to be continuously in a pursuit. And yet, if for them, it's, I've done it. I like it or I don't like it, and I want to do something different. So it's no longer about working for the same employer for 50 years. It's no longer about this loyalty or dedication to a career or a project or whatever. They think differently. That's not what interests them. What really interests them is, I like this right now. This is fun. It's not fun anymore. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do something that's fun. Now, fun does not mean that it's always going to be not serious in the sense of just gallivanting from one thing to the next. But once this project is no longer stimulating, when this account is no longer satisfying, when this is no longer makes me smile in the morning when I get up, I want to do something else. And so that's the other thing that we started seeing, is that a lot of career change. It's unheard of now that people will be in the same company for their entire career. And of course, the big companies are complaining. They're saying they have no loyalty. Well, yeah, because I understand their point. They spend money on training these people. Now these people are trained, they're knowledgeable, they're finally going to start paying off and bringing dividends, and they leave. But if you want them to stay, you got to give them a reason to stay. And oftentimes, you can't promote everybody all the time, and you can't have 25 VPs for 25 employees. And so that's when they'll look for other things. And the indigo won't necessarily leave, and this is the confusing part for these poor old companies that are used to working this way offering more money. I like, no, I don't want more money. I want more freedom. I don't want more money. I want to travel. I don't want more. So the companies can't compete with that. And so we have to adapt. So people have to be able to work while they travel. They have to work while they're still at home. They have to work varying schedule. Because it's no longer the money that is driving these children that are now in their 50s, 40s, and 30s. So we have to adapt. They're also daydreamers. If you take their daydreaming time away from them, which for some of you may calculate as alone time, you will have a crisis on your hands. So make sure that if you're a busy parent, that in your schedule you include daydreaming time. Time where we do absolutely nothing. So that's how you can recognize an indigo child. They tend to demand, therefore, a lot more attention because you need to converse with them a lot, you need to talk to them a lot. So that's why they're usually born in big circles. Because if you can't give me time, she can. If she can, I'll go there. And she can't, I'll go there, right? Lucky for me, I had 6 brothers and I had about 15 aunts. And yeah, I had an unending supply of people. It was lovely. So they're very resilient. So even though, and this is also a required trait that they need, since that they constantly need to be trailing the way, tearing down old models and having to build new roads and guide people in a different direction. They need to be resilient. They can't be beat down the first obstacle. Yes? So they're fearless and resilient. They will just remember this royalty trait. They will demand to be treated with respect. No matter how old they are, no matter how much experience they have, their idea is just as good as the next person's idea. No matter, it's not based on gender, it's not based on age, it's not based on anything, but I've got an idea and you should be listened. So in a family, they want to hold the same amount of space and the same amount of voting rights as any other adults or older children have. Yeah, the best thing for them is to give them choices. Not to forbid them something, but say, okay, so you have the choice between this and that. Now that's the choices, and you have to choose between those. But at the very least, they get some sense of empowerment by being able to choose and select what they want. And they tend to require a high-frequency diet, which means a lot more vegetables and fruit, and a lot less chemicals, byproducts, and so meaning a lot of home-cooked meal. And the least amount of possible negative media. So limiting the newspaper, limiting the news on TV, limiting anything that will clash, because they're so sensitive that all those things affect them at an internal level. So it's important to be able to control how much of it comes from the external into them and creating the least possible amount of possible. Now, they are born or able to access the 4th and the 5th dimensional consciousness level, while most humans are allowed to or able to access the 3rd and 4th. I think that ever since these books have been written, there's been a shift. And I can say that I can see most humans going into definitely the 4th and sometimes reaching the 5th. Pardon me, but indigos go much higher. They're always a little bit higher because they're the ones who are trailing the way. They're the ones opening the mind. They're the ones, so they're always a step ahead. These higher dimensional access means that they may have this openness because they have clairvoyancy, or they have vision, or they have the ability to receive information that other people don't. Which in turn makes them incredibly creative because they see things other people don't see. They view things or understand concept the way nobody else has understood them. And so they tend to be more adventurous, not just in a physical sense, camping, hiking, and boating or whatever. And look at the way things have changed in that regards as well. It was only the very, 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 very few that would go on a safari or, get on a boat and go into the Amazon in the jungle. Now there's thousands of people every day that visit Machu Picchu. And it's just, yeah. It's when we're going to go on the moon, we're going to need a whole set of different people. But they made this available to everyone. They have changed the way we even live our adventure or communicate into different countries and in different cultures. Everything's acceptable, everything is open, and everything can be shared. That's because of the Indigo. The Indigo brought that about. Now, they're very passionate people. If you look at, I would say, newer companies, right? Not something that's been around for 50 years, but something that's maybe 10 years, 15 years. I've seen Indigos struggle, go into booze, the partying, sink really low, and then decide that it's not leading them anywhere. And then the guy went and dug a well and decided, oh, wow, this is actually purposeful and this makes sense. And he managed to finance his own personal company to have a nonprofit well digging in Afghanistan and Africa. That's what he does. And now he's happy, right? That's the way Indigos are. Most of what they're creating is not to make them richer. They're the CEO that go to work in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt because they're gonna go do something later that day. And they're not the ties and the suit and the appearance of the old companies. Oftentimes their company will be very open, very group inducive work instead of you got your little box, fit in your box, do your work, don't bother anybody else. They have this, Google is a company that belongs to an Indigo, right? The way that they share the ideas, the way that they create their posts, the way that they build Google is built on cooperation, built on different ideas, where on teamwork, built on respecting every idea might be a good idea, so let's explore that. Yeah. So all of this, as they're also the remember, you can't lie to them, right? So they're also the ones that are pulling all the secrets out. Family secrets, business secrets, it doesn't matter. So a lot of the child abuse and all of those family secrets that were hidden for so long are being aired out now. Why? Because if you keep secrets, you're wearing a weight around yourself. And this weight is preventing you from moving forward. And all of the Indigo's job is to move people forward. So breaking the silence is also another one of their job. So all these books, these shows, these movies, all of these things that we sometimes find hard to look at are basically putting in front of our face all the things that we've been living under the lie, hiding in the lie. And if we're finally honest and recognize this is a situation that exists, that's a situation that exists, and we need to stop making those mistakes, we need to create new ways of doing things. Yeah. And it's by blankly looking at life and being despairingly honest that the Indigo has achieved that for us. So medically, the Indigo may be often battle depression in their teenage years. They battle addiction as well. They are often diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. And so a medicated Indigo is no better than a drugged Indigo. It's a useless Indigo. So, and one of the reasons why the depression tends to set in is because they don't feel like they fit in. And they don't. That's the whole point of their existence, is not to fit in. So they figure out a new place to be. But because nobody's explained that to them, they struggled quite a bit. And so medically, that's one of the ways that you can recognize them. Now, not every depressed person's an indigo, right? I mean, but it is something that they will battle, because this lack of conformity and this lack of belonging, it does create a toll on them, especially if they're young and they're not feeling supported. And so we have to keep reminding ourselves that the best thing you can do for an indigo is to talk to them, is to interact with them, is to listen to them, and is to allow them that creative space and this originality and being game to try to do things differently, right? All right. So after all this work, the indigos are rewarded because the crystal children are finally being born. The crystal children, just like the indigo, didn't necessarily come all at once. There was a few that came ahead of time, probably in the 70s. When the rush of indigo came, I imagine that's when the few crystals started to appear. Okay? They're considered to be masters because they have access to a higher level of consciousness. So as much as I said the indigo can go to 5 to 6, they can go 6 to 9. Right? So they have a new awareness of we are all connected. Everything is linked. Everything, there's nothing happens for no reason. Right? All of those facts are a part of life now. But they weren't before. Before it was God's over there, we're here, and there's nothing between us. And now the tendency of a crystal child is, no, there's divinity in me. Part of my soul that is in the presence of God, therefore always connected, is connecting me. And through that, I connect to everyone and everything. That's a crystal child. They are building up on what the indigo have started. Now that the indigo says, no, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. Oh, but look, this one has this one has that. And oh, look, they have common elements. And then the crystal child will come and say, and therefore we're all united, we are all one. We need to stop seeing what's different about us and start seeing what's unique to all of us and what's uniting us and what's linking us together. Their job is, they're more of a consciousness than a unique person. I think that was the biggest fall of the indigo, because the indigo were very alone, isolated. And whereas the crystal children are able to feel the connection between them, even though they're far away apart from each other. They are never feeling so alone. So depression is not an issue for them. Also, with the indigo not fitting anywhere and creating all these new places that they could fit, these guys come in and they fit easily somewhere. So they function as a group, and they're mostly advocates of love and peace on the planet. And you see a lot of those children, they, you know, like people like Oprah has them in her show, and she's like, this kid has raised this much money for a kid he doesn't know for an operation, but he heard of it. And this other kid is doing this. And the parents are encouraging, and the message from the parents is always the same. I never believed he was going to actually do it, but I didn't want to discourage him, and we just let him go with the idea. And this is the kind of parent you need to have for crystal children. We just let it run with the idea. And then everybody is surprised at the results. Oh, look what happened. Oh my gosh, look what this kid can do, right? And with a little help, these kids, if they have access to technology, or they have access to someone who really believes in them, or they're connected to a newspaper or another social media, boom, they affect the world. And they're 6, 7, 8 years old. And that's the way the crystal children work. They are here to, they're warriors of the heart. They're all about love. So they are here to teach us about those things. And they can't teach us that just in our families. They need to reach communities. They need to reach the world. They need to have a much larger scale. But they'll be very affectionate to those they trust, but they still need to gain your trust. You have to gain their trust. They're not just going to simply love you just because you say you love them back. There's still a step there, right? You still got to prove yourself. What's also interesting is that our physical bodies are moving towards a more crystalline form of being. And that's also something that we work in Shasta. They're the keepers of the crystals of the earth, alignment. This crystalline base that we're going to turn into, these crystal children are there to show us how. One of the ways is that we need to raise our vibration. The other way is that we need to eat differently. The other way is we need to fix the way we think. But they're the role models to show us how our crystalline bodies are changing. Medicine is going to change because of that, because our bodies are going to change. So everything you know about medicine is going to become obsolete because it's going to be changed and modified to a new body structure, a new cell structure. There's among that generation of crystal children, there are different children associated with different crystal frequencies. Particular frequency is the rose frequency, which are carrying within their DNA the essence of Earth's love. And so those are the children specifically working to restoring parks and waterways and healing, water source and creating habitats for animals and eliminating zoos where animals are encaged in an effort to create a more preserved nature place where they can roam free and act like the animals they're supposed to act, but still preserve their life. Okay, they're so amongst the crystal children, the special kind of children is oriented towards Earth's healing, particularly, and we see a lot of that, right? And it's taking a different. What was the name of this organization? Girls and stuff like that. Greenpeace. But they did it by fighting, yeah. And now those children are just forgetting all the fighting altogether. And they're not about the fighting; they're about the love. And instead, there's like, okay, so you want to go fish there? Yeah, okay. So we're going to create this space. We're going to buy this space. We're going to make sure that these animals have a safe place, and you can't come here. That's ours now. There's no more fighting. There's no more arguing. It's just. Yeah, this is the way you work. You say, if I buy the land's mine. I can do what I want with it. Well, I bought this land. Now that's mine, and you can come. Stand. Yeah, you see the difference? They're still not that Greenpeace didn't try to save anything, but they did with what they knew how. And these kids are coming in with a completely know how that is completely different, which is what brings about the real change. So now they started coming between 1990 to 2010. Does that mean that every kid between 1990 and 2010 is a crystal child? No, it just means that a lot of them, that's when they came in. Does that mean that's the only time they came in? No, some of them came a little bit before that, and more will be coming in the future, even though a new type of child is now coming on the planet. Why is that? Because the new type of child has no karma. So anybody who has karma to deal with has to be either an indigo or a crystal. Yeah. So we're going to still be having those coming about. The first thing you recognize in these children is also their forgiving nature. And apparently they have big googly eyes. Their eyes seem very old, very wise. When you actually get into looking into their eyes, everybody is mesmerized by the eyes. The eyes have magnetic power to them, a very charismatic aura about them. They're very unique that way. They're incredibly sensitive, and they're universally connected. So what happens to someone if there's an earthquake somewhere, or if there's a tsunami somewhere? They'll feel the impact on their energy. They won't know what it is. They'll just feel something as it happened. Remember if you look at Star Wars movie and the whole planet gets destroyed and There's a few of them that go, oh, there was a great disturbance in the force. Okay, well, they're like Yoda and the Master Jedi. They can feel these massive movement of energy because they affect the frequency throughout the planet. So they tend to be, so if your child doesn't feel well or looks unwell or something looks off, ask yourself, did something happen on a planetary scale? Something massive did happen that could affect the child. And then there's no need to tell the child exactly what it is, but at least you have an understanding that, he is connected to that loss or that suffering. And that loss doesn't necessarily have to be human. It could be an animal loss. Yes? So as much as the indigo, the lie detector, the crystal children know exactly what your thoughts are. They tend to be very telepath. And so they'll know if you're being truthful, they'll know if you're being honest, and they'll know exactly what's going on with you. So trying to hide things from them, you're just going to lose their trust. And I guess that's the reason why they can be very loving. And you're thinking, well, they're loving. Yes, until they don't trust you anymore because you're hiding things. And what you're hiding is their birthday party, or that you're hiding an affair with your coworker, or whatever it is, they'll know something's off. So best policy in regards to crystal children is complete truth, absolute truth, and nothing but the truth. Now, they don't react to fear. They're also, as much as the indigo are fearless, they just don't react to fear. So they might not understand what fear is all about. They might be very confused by the concept of fear. Because what do you have to be afraid of? You're one with God. God is with you at all times. We are all connected, and we're all in this together. And we're all going to return to this state of oneness. So why are you afraid? They don't understand death because they know there's no death. Even though you've never explained these things to them, they have it knowing, and you'll have a very, very hard time convincing them otherwise. The Crystal Scouts were very psychic, and they suffered even more than the Indigos did. Because the Indigos, eventually, their thing was to understand they don't fit in a box, and then build a new place that's not a box, and then free the way for the crystal children to arrive. But those crystal children that did arrive too soon or very early really struggled because they didn't fit anywhere. And the medical field didn't have a name for them, and nobody quite understood them, and they were just always seen on the fringe of society. So Doreen Virtue explains that the characteristic of a crystal child may be in their eyes. They have large eyes. I wasn't kidding about that. Apparently they have large eyes. Yeah. Children always have bigger eyes. You actually have the eyes that you're born with. Your eyes don't change. Your ear continuously grows. Your nose continuously grows. But your eyes don't. And this is why the eyes seems to shrink as you grow older. That's because everything keeps growing, but the eyes don't. But they seem to have bigger eyes than the general population. They dislike bright lights and bright sounds or loud noises. And they can stare at people. Or what appears to be staring, but really what they're doing is they're reading people's energy. They're reading the energy fluctuation. They're reading your thoughts. And for them, it's like reading a very long book. Their third eye is open. It's born open. So they will see angels, spirit guides. They will also be able to do telekinesis in some cases. So moving an object with their mind. And their speech usually begins later in life. So that might be one of the reasons for the increased diagnostic in autism children, autism spectrum disorder. Because they're slow to speak, and they tend to be more quiet, and they tend to be in their own world. while they're not really in their own world, they're looking at your world, your energy, and your book, and your story, and your past life, and all that stuff. Because they're not conforming to this pre-established growth development chart. And we're so focused on this, these books and what to expect when you're expecting. Well, by this much, they should be doing this, and by this age, they should be doing that. And, and you're so access on performance and being a certain way that then when they're not achieving these steps or these milestones, we take them to the doctor, and then that's when the medical profession will usually have the Asperger autism spectrum disorder diagnosis for you. They're very artistic. They love music. They'd rather sing than talk. They are obviously enthralled with crystals, rocks, and nature. It's very important for them. They'll talk to the stones, and you'll think, oh my gosh, my child is crazy, or how creative, but they're really actually communicating. So for them, stones is a cell phone. It's a cell phone communicating maybe with a subterranean race living under the earth. There might be communicating with the spirit of that rock. They have these connections, these abilities that goes way beyond this physical world. And they don't need to be taught. And so therefore, completely independently acting, no matter who their parents are or what they've been taught. Yes? Okay. They don't like places, environments, or situation where there's frictions, yelling, or arguing. They'll tend to react very negatively. Again, an autistic trait for some. They get so overwhelmed they start screaming or, beating the air with their hands. But all this, by the age of 4 or 5, will greatly diminish. And the autistic symptoms will mostly or likely disappear. Emotionally, they're very affectionate. They tend to be very clingy when they're young. Again, by 4 or 5, because now they understand not everybody gets my telepathic message. Actually, I have to use these very long words, and they start communicating, and they're able to detach because people are understanding, so they don't need to rely constantly on their parents to do the interpretation of what they're trying to communicate. They prefer to have sugar-free, caffeine-free, and unnatural chemical food out of their diet. They prefer veggies, fruits. They seem to be very picky, but now that we know everything we know about food and how food affects our health and our bodies, they intrinsically know or seem to know what's good for them. And so they don't buy into you have to have this many portions of that and this many portions of that. They're like, right now I'm hungry and this is what calls to me and that's what I want to eat. Their aura is opalescent. So the indigo is an indigo blue purple color, but they seem to be more of a rainbow color. So think of when you're looking at a shell, all the colors that you see when the sun hits it. That's what a rainbow child crystal child looks like. They have all these different colors inside of them. So, and they're usually very gifted at healing. In the street. And you'll be like, no. And they'll be like, but they need help. And you're like, no. At least there's not something you can do. Right? They will be the one very philosophical. They will discuss ideas that you're thinking, what is a 10-year-old thinking about these things, right? I saw this clip on whatever, the news or whatever, and made me think. And then they go into this, they really thought about it. And they have great ideas. And they're not held back by what's possible, what's not possible. As far as they're concerned, we all work together. All of this is possible. Because after all, it just got created by a 10-year-old. If a 10-year-old can think about this, then you people can think about it. And if you can't think about it, it's okay. You can just help me because I've thought about it all. Yeah? And so they are, we're having debate outside with this girl who thinks he's an Indigo child, and the other one thinks, no, I think you're Crystal. Also, they're very vulnerable to allergies and rashes, which again explains the importance for them to eat certain food and be very aware of what they ingest and the environment they're in. Sometimes we're looking for a physical explanation for the rash, then we should look for the emotional reason for the rash, because they're so connected and the information is so transparent to them that it could be a multiple layer cause. Which leads us to the last one of the evening, the rainbow children. And the rainbow children at this point are mostly toddlers. So toddlers would be from a little bit older. Maybe they're about 7 now. The very first one, you know. These children are here to build on what the Indigo and the Crystal have built on. They're here to build this new world according to divine will. So not according to being rich, not according to ego, but according to, we're going to return to a way of building houses that are in accordance to nature. We're not going to destroy forests anymore. We're going to build within the forest. We're not going to eradicate entire species. We're going to live amongst them. And these children apparently have no karma. And most of them, it's never been incarnate before. And therefore allows them to reach above the ninth level of consciousness. Now, that still remains to be proven because they're brand new. They're all fresh out of the womb and they're basically growing. But they're generally born in the year 2000 and above. Okay, so some of them technically were in 2019, would be 19. But in order for them to be born, they usually have to be born from a crystal parent. So if they were born in the year 2000, that means that their parent were precursors. So you would look at very fringe people living on the fringe of society more than mainstream. So for mainstream, I'd say the biggest load would be from 10, 7, and down. And so they tend to recover from negative energy very quickly. They tend to be very peaceful, very happy, calm babies. They're very loving and not very demanding. Parents find them to be very easy, very fun to be having kids, and that's, doesn't seem to be much of an effort into parenting these children. However, they're very strong-willed, and they have very, very definite personalities. So again, that's why they require crystal parents, because they require a certain ability to roam and to be free and to evolve and to think and to create. Yeah. So remember, it's a building on. So you can't have authoritative parents, very bossy parents, very limiting parents having that kind of a child. It just wouldn't work. So high energy loves color. So if you're having a child right now that loves wearing the pink toque and the green sweater and the blue pants and the green socks and just thinks that, but I'm a rainbow, that's who they are. Extremely, extremely creative. So they love the arts, they love the music, they just love spinning around in a circle because it makes them dizzy, and then the room spins and it's like hilarious, right? They have a funny way of looking at everything as everything is new to them. So everything is an experiment, everything is fresh, and so they're bubbling for enthusiasm for everything in life. They are known for their telepathy and their healing abilities, but also known that they seem to be completely unharmed by things, as if the world around them just, they'll knock themselves into here, but it's like they'll manifest, the thing disappears as their head goes through it. They're manifesting exactly what they want and what they need, and so their experience is extremely positive. There are very, very few rainbow children that are old. Like I said, the majority would be 7 and under. They will not choose to be incarnated in a dysfunctional family because they have no karma. And because they have no karma, they don't need the chaos of childhood problems to help them grow spiritually. They're above and beyond that. Now, no karma, I mean, this is where the debate can be, is that if there's no karma, does that mean that they've never been incarnate before? Which is what some people seem to suppose. I think not. I think that they finally clear their karma and they're here finally karma free. Without the karma, then they're free to go beyond what they've been able to achieve. They're about service. They're about helping. So we're going to see, and this needs to happen anyway, the population of the earth is aging, and there'll be a drastic drop in the population. Because what's happening is that the people are getting old, and with science and medicine, we're keeping them alive longer and longer and longer, right? So the population keeps increasing, but eventually, this large group of number of people, which are called the baby boomers, are all of a sudden, all at once, in a matter of a few years, going to disappear. The population of the earth will probably shrink by half. We will be in a very different position. There won't be such a high demand for taking care of people who can't work and can't produce and can't, contribute. And this is going to be the time when people are going to say, well, I don't mind working 20 hours a week if you don't mind working 20 hours a week. And then that's going to, and it's already started to happen, right? People are sharing their work week. People are starting to cut back on expenses. They're starting to grow their own vegetables. People are changing the way they're doing things. When more and more of these rainbow children are part of our planet, they're going to be about service. So instead of going to the market to buy a vegetable, you're going to go to this place where you're going to instead donate 5 to 6 hours a week to take care of the garden. And it's going to be a community garden where everybody is going to be entitled to, they have this in Germany. They have one main farmer that they pay, and everybody donates so many hours based on the number of vegetables they need. And so this massive garden, it's like an acre of garden, is growing cabbage and tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchinis and whatever else. But because all these people are volunteering every week, it's up and running and it's working fabulously. And then the food gets distributed amongst the people who've given the hours of you participated in growing these vegetables. So you're going to require less and less money. Now we're almost reaching a phase, like everybody has to have a cell phone, everybody has to have a tablet, everybody, and all of a sudden this is going to just fall apart. Because we're starting to see ads about, saying, let go of your phone, take care of your kid. Right? And I've seen these things. I've seen a mother breastfeeding, not looking at the kid and on her phone, busy with the phone, and I'm thinking, this is a wonderful moment that you could be with your child here. You could be bonding, and they're not bonding, right? And I think that this regeneration that's growing up now is going to realize this is interfering, and I don't want this for me and my child. And I think that's going to be the next big boom, is they're going to trash all this technology stuff, and we're going to go back to. No, I think we're going to go back to like one screen, and if you need to talk to someone, just like in the old days when you had one telephone in the kitchen and you all had to take turns on the telephone and there was no privacy whatsoever. And we're going to go back to, if you need it, it's there, but otherwise go outside and meet face to face and discuss things. We're going to change the way that this social media is pulling us away from being social. right? It's kind of funny. That's the irony of social media, is it's pulling us away from actually being social with each other. I actually said tonight, if nobody's coming, I'm postponing the talk because I prefer to have the talk when people are here. I'm doing this because I'm a sociable bird. This is great that you guys can listen from a distance, but it's important for me to connect to people. If I don't connect, what's the point, right? So these children are bringing the energy of Reiki, Qigong, pranic healing, and other hands-on healing in their body. So just by holding them, or just by them being, they're going to be flooding the community they're in with these wonderful energies. It's going to be lovely. They're perfectly balanced male and female energy. So this means that some of them are actually born androgynous. And this is starting to happen more and more. Just like we had a raise in autism, now we're going to get a rise into the births of children being born with male-female organs. And why is that? Because that's the way we were originally made before we separated our bodies. Okay? Too far-fetched? No? We're still good? Okay. So they're very confident without being aggressive. They're intuitive, and I don't like the word psychic, but I think that they can see things without a whole bunch of method, or it just comes to them. It's just easy, right? So don't be surprised if they are telling you, well, I was playing with grandma and grandma's been dead for 3 years. For them, it's absolutely normal. Then they also, as much as the crystal children are very loving, but they need to trust you first, they just love you. They just love everybody. They're not afraid of that. They're fearless in that sense. They're universally affectionate. And that's where they won't be able to walk by someone who's laying in the street and is hungry, or know that a child somewhere doesn't have shoes. And that's when the distribution of resources are just going to start happening. We're no longer going to have very rich people or very poor people. We're just going to have everybody with shoes on, everybody with a meal in front of them 3 meals a day, and everybody with a roof over their head. Might not be a fancy house, might not be a glorious house, but they'll have one, right? And for that, other people are going to have to take a two-acre mansion and cut it to pieces so that 20 people can find a place to live instead. Yeah, and those are the change that the rainbow children are bringing to us. A more balanced lifestyle, a more equivalent. You're a human, you're a human, you're a human, I'm a human. We all deserve these things. It's not because I'm not better than you, you're not. It doesn't matter if you think you're more intelligent than me. We all deserve the basics of lives. And if everybody deserves the basics, then we can exchange ideas and philosophies as much as you want. But first, let's meet everybody's needs. Yeah, and that's what the rainbow child is bringing. So it's all about the divine connection. In conclusion, I'm getting pretty good at this. I got 2 minutes to conclude. The Lightworkers' mission is to bring light to the world. The Star Children are here to spread and build this light in humanity and show us how can we be this light and spread this light. And then through this, help us focus on what we want, not what the other people have, because then you're focusing they have and I have not. But what do I want? What do I need? What is important for me to be happy? And as you focus this energy in you, you will bring this light about you. You'll realize that most likely you just want love and attention and peace like everybody else, right? And it's not going to be in buying a bigger house or a bigger car or a bigger TV that you're going to get that. It's going to be by being surrounded by people you trust, people you love, and people you can openly share and be honest with. And so the Star Children are here to spread this light, to teach you how to create heaven on earth through conscious awareness. And this is why conscious awareness is going to be so important in our lives. If you want the written information for the bibliography, just go look on the Facebook or the comments of the YouTube video later on. And we're going to go through the question section now. So I'm just going to stop podcast. So, any questions?
I have one.
Yes, dear.
Will it culminate with the Rainbow Children, or will there be something different?
What do you mean?
Will it end with the Rainbow Children being the last of the
I
new,
see.
new children?
The thing is that the Rainbow Children have access to the 9th level of consciousness and higher. And there's only 12 levels. And basically the 12th level is after realizing that your first level is you and it's all about you. And growing into, we're actually all part of a bigger thing. We're all connected, which is 9, 10. 12 is you realize that even though you're a drop in the ocean, you're still you. And this is the biggest fear, is that, well, if I'm with everyone, then I'm losing who I am. No, that's the 12th level of consciousness, when you realize that you can still be the individual drop in the ocean, even though you're in the ocean. So, will there be something else right now? I think it's more we're losing all of the other colors, right? Because the crystal is all the colors and the Rainbow Children are all the colors. So I think that it's not, if you're already all the colors, I don't know what else it could be. Other than maybe a white child, but the white child is also all the colors. So it would just be, I don't know. I can't tell you. But I know that amongst those 3 types of children is people are being born under those colors. So the other colors are slowly becoming obsolete. And that's the colors of greed and the colors of war and the colors of all those things are becoming obsolete. And the other thing too, that remember that all of this is about ascension, right? And the other thing that's going to happen is that once the planet becomes a five-dimensional planet, everybody's still stuck in a third-dimensional energy is actually getting booed off that planet. They're not allowed to stay. So you're either going to be transforming with the planet into this five-dimensional being, this crystal being that I was describing, a crystal or light being, depending on which dimension you're going to transfer to. But if you're not following that and you're not willing to change, then you are given the opportunity to continue to grow, but on a different planet. Just like at the beginning of this history of this planet, we had certain beings that joined us on this planet. They were shipped here. They caused a lot of damage because they were a lot more advanced than we were. But they weren't allowed, but they were still technically third-dimensional. And so they weren't allowed to continue on their planet, and so they got shipped out. The same idea is going to happen now. This planet is moving on to the fifth dimensional. It's not negotiable. This is where she's at. This is where this is going, and that's period. And so everybody who is not willing to change and is not willing to grow with that will be shipping out. And what is a five-dimensional being but someone that is loving, someone who is forgiving, someone who takes care of the planet? So reducing the garbage, reducing your impact, your carbon impact on the planet, starting to change the way you consume things. Do you have to buy everything new all the time? Do you need as many things as you do? What do you do when you stop using something? Are you hoarding it? Are you giving it back? Are you allowing it to be recycled? Are you buying recycling products? Right? All of these things encourage the less consumption of the planet and the growth. So, and people are getting more and more creative. Like there's these two guys who started gathering plastic in the ocean, and they started making the bracelets. Out of the money they made from the bracelets, they now have a fleet to clean more ocean. Right, so this is how these indigo and these crystal kids are thinking. Right, they understand. I need a boat, and I need equipment for diving, and I need things to continue doing this. But I'm okay if this is all I do for the rest of my life because I'm diving. Right, they're living their passion, but at the same time they're doing something great, and so they found a way to actually finance it. Right, selling these bracelets. Okay, so That works, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of the stories that I'm seeing emerging now is a lot of stories like that. Stories where the people, they do what they love, and by doing what they love, they see how they can make an impact still, and they manage to make an impact. That's positive and not negative for once. Anything else? Oh, I'm so good. If you do have any question, I'm always open for comments, and I will type an answer when I get a question. But for now, for the time being, I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next week. Next week's topic is the 12 laws of the universe.
Yes.
And so you'll finally learn the rules by which you're governed by, which should allow you to not get a penalty box every week. Right? Finally, you go, oh, that's why this keeps happening to me. So tune in next week, Tuesday, 6:30. Bye-bye. Oh. Yes.